Good evening, Benj.
Hello.
Great
How are
to
you? Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing fine. Yes. Like I'm excited. Like this is our first. It's the second episode of the dot 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 and the Futurist series, and I'm really happy to do today with you. Um, being one of my good friends and an innovator, I thought it would be really great to just circle around what that means, the being an innovator, and how innovation is not just for a few, but actually I believe it's for everyone, and actually it helps you to make the most of life and get that momentum towards your future. I would love to just have a chat, have a conversation, invite people to join us. And so we are broadcasting, streaming this through YouTube and Facebook. So for those who are in Facebook, there's this weird name called Melon app that actually asks you permission to forward your comments to us. So please allow the Melon app to forecast or forward your comments so you can communicate with us, because we would love to hear your insights as well about the conversation we have. And so Benj, like innovator, I invited you to be the innovator in the innovator in the Futurist. So what bell does it ring with you when I say the innovator?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on, Arjan. It's a real privilege. I've watched some of your futurist things in the past, and they've been fantastic. So, when you asked me, I was really excited, and I like the title Innovator for a few reasons. I think one of the things that it triggers me when I hear the word innovator. It reminds me of a journey that I was on with a friend 25 years ago when we were going across the African bush to climb a volcano. And on the way, we borrowed my friend's dad's Lada Riva, good old Soviet engineered vehicle. Unfortunately, it wasn't built like their tanks. And probably 200 kilometers from the nearest town, the spring broke, and we still wanted to go and climb our volcano. This little spring and a tire hanging off wasn't going to stop us. So we had some basic tools to take off the tire and had a look and could see the spring was there, but we didn't have anything to fix it with. And in the end, we managed to find a way of using our shoelaces to tie up the spring out of the way so it wouldn't rub on the tire, and somehow compress the bottom part of it with the other shoelace so that the rest of the car kind of got by, and we were able to drive it, and drove it 100 kilometers to our destination, 300 kilometers back. So it was good enough. And for me, that's what innovation is about. It's about using the stuff you've got, seeing what's gone wrong, but not necessarily focus on trying to fix it, and working out how you can get where you want to go. And I know it's a silly story from a long time ago, but I think there's quite a bit in it.
Well, if you would use the Swiss Army knife and the duct tape, then it probably would be an episode of a series we all know from our childhood, like the MacGyver kind of way of approaching it. But what I love about it, it's like using the tools, the small things like the shoelaces in circumstances that didn't look like they were helping to get you to that place you were traveling to.
Absolutely.
I believe that actually, like, so as a futurist, human-centered, people always know that I talk about, like, okay, what's your preferred future? And also in the midst of this, like over a year with all the lockdowns and all that circumstances, situations that probably don't fit any of our goals. but it's just a circumstance. And it should not change our goals. If we know where we want to go and we derive from that, or backcast, a fancy word from that, our for where we want to be in a year, 2 years' time, and we derive from that who we want to become, what our goals are, then the circumstances are a setback or an opportunity, but they're not changing the direction or the goals.
Yeah.
That means that we're not tossed around by a year of lockdowns. Like, I look to my school-going teenagers, and like maybe next week school it will be closed again. Well, for them, it really defines how the whole weeks look. But if I look to the broader perspective, I see so many people around us that actually they don't know what to expect anymore. They don't know how to focus anymore. They don't want to be an hibernate. But how would you approach that? It's just a normal life situation, the chaos we are in. How would you approach that with an innovator's perspective?
It's one of the reflections I've been having about this past year, and I've said to a few people, it is the time more than ever that I've known, certainly, for innovators to rise up. I think, I look around and it is chaos. We're in chaos. We're in the territory of governments making stuff up and making up the story to make themselves look good. But I think if we know where we want to go, we've got everything that we need to get us there. And I think, as an innovator, it's about focusing, making sure that you keep focused on where you're going and not get distracted by the noise or the chaos, or even the problems. I think it's easy to, maybe distracted is not quite the right word, but to focus and fixate on the problems and trying to fix them, and look for them and identify them. And as soon as you start to do that, then you either want to solve them or you want to start mapping them out or correlating them, or, joining the dots and doing something huge. But I think there's something about kind of looking at the problems that we're facing and acknowledging them and recognizing them, but then taking a step and going, yes, those things may be true, but this is where I'm going. What have I got on my shoes? What have I got around me? What are the skill sets that I've got inside me? Who are the people around me? How can we make stuff happen to keep us pushing forward to where we want to go?
Yeah. Well, I like what you say. Like I'll repeat it in different words, but that's what you trigger with that statement. That you say actually that the problems are not necessarily there to be fixed. Do I understand you correct?
Yeah.
So that just makes me think like just in life, daily life, we have things that don't work out. We have obstacles. And the first proactive reaction would be like, let's conquer the obstacles. Let's go fix it. Let's not be intimidated by them. But actually, when I think about that, maybe most of our problems are actually not things to be solved, are not blocking us, but maybe they are just communicating us what the dynamics we are in. So they're more like symptoms than a cause or something to be fixed. Is that correct?
That's definitely how I see it. When you were talking just there, I was transported in my mind back to a school classroom and a teacher talking about problem solving. And there was a description of a mountain, and the question was, what kind of problem solver are you? Are you the person who sees this mountain in front of you and wants to just climb over the top and conquer the problem? Or are you the person who kind of tries to mine a tunnel through it? And I always really struggled with that because I started to have questions about the fact that what if the mountain's not there? You know, why do I want to go to the other side of the mountain? Where am I going? You know, what if I just go this direction? Will it get me there? And I think for me, problems are something that, like you say, a signpost of what's going on. You know, often we can't really control the problem. Certainly, it feels like that more than ever at the moment. But it leads to it can lead to really helpful questions that go, what if we did something completely different? What if this problem isn't actually a problem, but it just feels like a problem, or it just looks like a problem? And yeah, so I think you're right. I think the question is what then, and what do you do with it?
Yeah, so you should know where you want to go.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're going, then actually you're tossed around by probably the circumstances. So when you know where you're going, and you know what the milestones are to go to stay on track,
yeah,
you still don't go in a straight line, but you can just go around problems because you can sense that they are actually distraction instead of being relevant.
Yeah.
And so to make it more real, tangible, we need, of course, a good example. So I'm buying myself a little bit of time now. But
well, I think one of the examples that I see at the moment is, you know, one of the problems facing society in general following all the lockdowns is lack of employment, and, you know, businesses struggling. And for a lot of people, you know, that is this big problem, that they see financial doom and gloom facing them in everything that they see around. But what if it's an opportunity to turn these businesses around, to invest in the ideas that lots of the people inside the businesses hold, and, you know, let people speak and think, and, you know, let creativity really flow and come out in business, in schools, right? You know, what if we could really reimagine doing schools differently, and education differently? You know, I think you start to see the different problems caused by the circumstances, the environments, and straight away there's what happens if we just did it completely differently?
Yeah, I think the education system, like, you hear everywhere around in the news that the students, the kids, the teenagers, that they are behind on the curriculum. So what is the problem? That now I think the problem is they don't meet the standard of the curriculum. But it's not that the problem is not that they're not learning.
Yeah.
Like, probably they have learned life lessons that they would normally miss in life due to the curriculum. So they have learned something different. And it's not up to the process or the standard to actually say that it's right or wrong what they've learned, that they are behind or not. And but you have to zoom out and see the bigger picture. It's the same like the example you say, like a lot of jobs are lost. So employment is a problem. So let's fix it. Let's create jobs. Yeah, is that a solution? Or is that just on the very short term keeping people busy? And yeah, I know cash flow, income, very relevant things for the short term, but on the long term. So probably you know that as an innovator as well. If you get occupied by busyness, and you're not sure if that's the right busyness, then actually you make some money, but you could, by the 1 day work, you could be 2 days behind on schedule for your life journey.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that kind of setting? What is the question that you keep asking yourself?
Well, I think there's several questions. I think one is the what if question, like what if we did something different? What could it be like? And I think the other thing that I've been reflecting on is what am I measuring? What's my measuring system? Because often, I think, often we're using a way to measure how we're doing and where we're going that's based on the past and based on an old paradigm. And therefore, things seem like problems or seem like we're failing or falling behind because we're looking and using this old system of boxes. It came to my mind the other day because we had to do a census here, and you have to fill in a whole bunch of boxes to say, where you're from, what ethnicity, and all these things. And you look at it and it's based on an old paradigm that's been used for 150 years, and they want to track progress against that paradigm. But I had so many conversations with friends since it that who they are and how they view themselves doesn't fit into the old paradigm anymore. And I think, that's the same with the education thing. The measurement that schools use on kids and on teachers are all based on a 100-year-old set of requirements that we must have people who fit into these boxes. And we keep measuring everybody, the students and the teachers, against these set of old paradigms, and then we get the same frustrations and outputs. So what if, the thing we measured ourselves, I guess, is one of the questions. What if the thing we measured ourselves on was based on where we want to go in the future and what our future vision is? And that's not a simple answer. But what if you could? How would we reframe our current situations and the things that we're facing?
Yeah, I recognize those questions. Like finding first out what is the real problem, and then if I know what the real problem is, so and not repeat, but the circumstances are in most cases not the real problem.
Yeah.
And then we have to just start challenging ourselves and with the what if. Like I always say, what if everything is possible?
Yeah.
And what if my desires are true and right? And by going through these kind of actually challenging my paradigm, my mindset, and my measurement of what does success look like and how do I measure success, you challenge them all. That's what I hear you do. And I think that is such it's not comfortable. But if you want to be comfortable, then you probably are not an innovator or a pioneer or a futurist. You're probably find your seat somewhere in the bus. And we are not talking about driving the bus. We are talking not about that bus at all. Let's find out an easier and a faster way to move. But that really is framed in that you know where you want to go to.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got a clear picture of where you want to go, and as a futurist, I could say that's not, there is no excuse out there for not knowing where you want to go. But there is a set of skills that is available. You can develop it. That will help you to get a clear picture, clarity about where you want to go, who you want to become. And the more I'm working with this through in the corporate setting and online with the coaching, it's all about this one small line of text. I want to find out who I can become, and that's for me a key question. Who do I want to become?
I think it is really, really a key question, and I think as well. What I know about you, Arjan, is so. This is my thoughts. I think everybody will at some point work out the answer to that question. You know, whether it's on your deathbed and you've not become who you want to become, and you've realized right at the last minute, this isn't who I wanted to become, or, you know, because of some crisis or other, you realize that I've become somebody who I don't want to become, then that forces you to figure out who you want to become. But I guess the interesting thing I found from some of the tools that I've learned from you is, well, can we accelerate finding out who I want to become? You know, can I find that out now? And why waste, you know, another 5 years or 10 years or 20 years going around in circles and meandering and being distracted by this circumstance or that circumstance or this excuse or life or whatever? You know, for me, I'm really passionate about acceleration. There's something about that word that gets me every time, you know, whether it's just the feeling you get from being on an airplane that's accelerating down the runway to take off, or, you know, to see people accelerated into what they can do and what they're built for, and finding out who they could become. So for me, that's the key. You know, how can we accelerate, innovate? Yeah. And that's really exciting.
Yes, yeah, and I truly believe you can accelerate.
Yeah,
I think there are a few things that are not possible, but most things are possible. And I think one of the things that is not possible is a shortcut.
Yeah,
like the process in life is just something you have to go through, and the more I got aware of my own process in life, I am surprised, not disappointed, but I'm surprised how much time others need to develop, to go through, to apply skills like creative thinking versus critical thinking. Like, it's both have a purpose. If you mix them up, you miss the point. But there is a fine line between the two. So it's like navigating, and there's a level of mastery involved, which sometimes is experienced as fatigue. But you can accelerate the process. So you can't shortcut it, but you can accelerate it. And actually, it's all about actually speaking. You can accelerate by asking or being asked the right questions. So it's language. You can accelerate yourself in the process by actually verbalizing your thoughts, your feelings, and beyond that, what you sense. And find new language. And you have joined a while back in one of the challenges we did. And by the way, in April, we'll have a new challenge. But the challenges are always like, can I find language that is connected to something that I did not gain yet? Is there something ahead of me that I find language for? So the moment I speak, it's not yet manifested, not yet created. Well, that new language isn't really an agent, an accelerator to get you forward. And then some call it affirmations and declarations, but it's so true. If you start using language about things that are ahead of you and others, you start to accelerate.
And I think for me, part of that is linked absolutely to the kind of innovation side of things, because it's a process in a way of experimentation, and experimentation in my mind's completely linked to innovation. Well, what if I do this? What if I use these words? What's the impact? And okay, maybe that worked, maybe it didn't. What if I try these ones? And what if I try those ones? And what if I try those words? And yeah, until you try and start speaking it out, I think you just don't know what could be possible.
And I remember a while back we had a group of innovators and pioneers together, and it was all about that experience. It's like how our senses work together, including our gut feeling, our awareness of the future, how that works together with having an experience. That's the start of what they call transformational change. Without an experience, there isn't much going to happen. But when you have a good experience, you actually already have change because you want more of it.
Yeah.
So how emotions and feelings and senses and how that all works together in actually finding out more about yourself, your surroundings, that increasing awareness of who you are, and the influence you have on those around you, then seeing, feeling, tasting, but mainly speaking is such a powerful accelerator.
Yeah.
You said, what if? I want to go back to that one. What if? So what would be a good question to start with if you want to get yourself not unstuck, but you want to get yourself in an acceleration mode so that you can just run around the obstacles instead of being delayed every time by fixing what needs to be fixed? So what is a good question? Or what is a good what if topic?
Well, I think one of the what ifs is linked to understanding what I believe about myself. So doing what if statements around those, what if I could pick up the phone and speak to, anybody? What if I had the most amazing relationship with my kids? What could it look like? What if the ideas that I have had actually are really valuable? What if this is one that triggered off a conversation you've said a few times? What if everybody around me is actually a leader? What if I treated every single person I interact with as if they were a leader? What would I learn from that? And how would that change? I don't know. There's so many.
Yeah, well, what if everyone is creative?
Yeah, exactly.
What if any excuse is invalid?
Yeah. What if there are no excuses? What if no is not an option?
Yeah, and then taking from that position, see it as glasses, put them on and just look through the glasses. What if, and then what would you see?
Yeah.
What would you advise? What would be the first thing that you would fix, give, contribute, and get in that active mode? And
I think it comes, the more you do it, the more naturally it comes, and the more you learn to trust your gut. I do crosswords with my wife regularly, and often we'll struggle for a word, and then eventually we'll get it, and the other one will also go, I thought of that straight away, but I just thought that was the silly answer and I ignored it. And it's so true. So often the first thing that we think of, what if it was the right answer, and we just saved ourselves the hours of working and trying to think of something. What if we already saw it or sensed it or felt it, but it was just we didn't trust our own sensing or gut feel.
And it's so important to actually generate more answers. Like we tend to create more questions if we want to understand the topic. But if we just reverse it, flip it, and we are not creating more questions, but we are creating more possible answers.
Yeah.
Then in that way, you actually lift yourself up to a higher perspective. Because you're not like the small one with the huge problem, but you lift yourself up to look over the problem and beyond the problem. And by just generating more potential answers, you actually hear yourself say something that you would normally not say, not think. But by hearing it, you think, actually, let's explore this a little bit further.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And that external feedback loop of, listening to your own voice or having other people who are going to replay it back to you. That's definitely an accelerator.
Yeah. Well, when I look as I say, but if I look around me, or when I look around me, I don't see a lot of people feeling free, invited to actually speak up or process externally. And I remember through education and life as a business consultant, there was always like, not everyone is an external processor. And actually, I came to the conclusion, everyone is an external processor, because that's actually the shortest feedback loop of learning that accelerates you. Most people have been silenced by whatever reason, maybe believing that it's not valid, but actually by that haven't developed it. So I really encourage everyone to start developing that external processing side of you. Because all the geniuses out there, when they get stuck in their thinking, they just start to explain it to someone else, because explaining it to a mirror is a bit awkward. They start explaining it to someone else what the problem is, what the challenge is, and actually they hear themselves give the answer.
Yeah.
And probably we all have that experience somewhere for ourselves as well. So I really encourage you, like get in that loop, that you start to process your thoughts, your ideas, and find a group of people, find a group of peers that can handle you and push you back.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, the whole group of peers thing, because you said it before, being an innovator, being a futurist, I'm not looking for comfort. I'm not looking to be comfortable. And I think, yes, we all need to learn skills, how to ask questions in ways that don't offend and push absolutely everybody away from us. But to have a group of people around you who know that what you're doing is processing and innovating and asking questions that might be the most insane ones that you've ever thought of, and will hear them as that and not run away from you or get offended or upset, that's really, really, really valuable. And then we'll have the courage to kind of reflect that back to you. It's an added bonus on the feedback loop. Yeah,
and being challenged in your worldview,
yeah,
your perspective. Like recently, I remember I replied to someone's social media post because I was actually he tested an opinion, and so I reacted, and well, then the statement was, "Well, thanks for your input, but actually, I'm not looking for a discussion." And I was blown away, and then I thought, "But you should be, because actually, when you form an opinion, which is just a step before having a judgment or being judgmental."
Yeah.
You need to have a dialogue. You need to have a reflection, a pushback, an encouragement based on what you are speaking. Because actually all the words we speak is an experiment to find out if it generates future or it is destructive. And I'm not saying it's black and white, but actually all our language, all our words, they have impact on those around us. So if you say something and you actually say, "Well, I'm not looking for a discussion," then that's what I thought. What are you doing then? Because you give me your worldview, and I am allowed to sharp iron with iron by let's have a sword fight with the worldviews we don't share, with the result actually to learn.
Yeah, I think that's the key, though, isn't it? With the result of being to learn, and a lot of people don't believe that they want to learn. Don't give themselves permission to learn. Are afraid of learning because of their ego, because they might have to unlearn a whole load of stuff. So they come, they either completely avoid the confrontation or discussion because they don't want to be confronted, or they come into the conversation without any sense that they're going to learn and just want to bulldoze everybody in their way, which then nobody learns from either.
And I think it's a very American thing, but you hear it a lot in problem solving as well, like failing forward, fail fast. It's not to generate shame, but actually it's just like, if you fail, you've learned so much more than when you're successful.
Yeah.
But most of us, they first want to know before they try, to prevent failure. But then you take your learning curve away, and you end up with something that works, but you will never know if there is something out there that works better.
Yeah.
Or all the things that don't work right now. And I think it's Edison with the light bulb. Yeah. And of course it's like a hyped quote, but he says something like that, like, "I haven't found out how the light bulb works, but I found out 5 million ways it doesn't."
Yeah.
There is, of course, there is a truth in that statement, but it is really good to find out what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that you can actually help people, because helping people with telling them what works is actually not the best help, because people, you can't give them a shortcut, but you can point them into a direction so that maybe they don't have to do 5 million failures, but only 2,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Benj, I was just thinking, we do this on a weekly basis. I have this talks like once a month around the Innovator. Last time I had with Grant around the Pioneer, and next week I will have a talk with Ryan around the Entrepreneur. and the Futurist. So, and I'm looking forward to take this conversation with you in April to the next step. And I really encourage people to react, have your comments, questions.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if there's anybody watching who's got specific things that they want to talk about in terms of innovation, and how we can shape the future for ourselves and around us. I'd be really interested. We can talk about those on the call next time, maybe, Ariane.
Yeah, I would love to have that conversation with others, and it would be a huge help for us as well to make it as concrete, applicable, actionable as possible.
Yeah.
Because the future is not that far off.
Yeah, I mean, you know this, but I'll say for the sake of everybody listening, you know, I'm really passionate about investing in people's ideas and in the people themselves and in the organizations that they're in, and that's what innovation, you know, the two things are completely linked. So if you know, you're watching this, whether you're watching live or later, and you've got things, you know, that you just see as a problem, and we could have a live innovation discussion around it, then let us know in the chat or whatever. I mean, the other thing we talked about for next time is the what wows question. I know we've talked a lot about what if this time, but I think that could be really good to explore next time as well, a bit more.
I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for your time. And well, I'm looking forward to great new innovations and to continue the conversation. So and for all those who have been watching, engaging live or later, thank you, and let's keep talking about it.
Yeah.
About what you want, where you want to go, and if there's anything that pops up, ask yourself what if and change your perspective. And on that note, I think it's time to say goodbye, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ariane.